Hello ladies and gentlemen. In this tutorial we're going to look at fine-tuning a very basic animation to make it look a little bit more dynamic, a bit more realistic and a bit more lifelike. Because one of the problems you might find when you first start exploring After Effects and do some basic movements and animations is that they just look a bit mechanical. They don't look particularly realistic. And in this tutorial we're going to see if we can solve that. So what I've got here, folks, I'm just going to render this through for you, is a very basic, probably the most simple animation you can do, a simple left to right. But it looks lifeless, mechanical, and not particularly realistic. And really, I think the aim of animated movement in computer software programs is to make things look realistic. Now, there'll be certain occasions when you want things to be perhaps more fantastical and not in the real world, but it's often the case that you do want things to look as if they're moving, as if real objects would move. And this is quite flat, quite dull, and a bit lifeless. Let's explore why, and then we'll see if we can solve the problem using Easy Ease keys. Now, if I click on the motion path, I've got two keyframes. One I set at the beginning here to start the animation, and one I set here to end the animation. Now, if a keyframe, which is this point here and this point here, is a diamond shape, it's a linear keyframe. And if it's a linear keyframe at the beginning here and the end here, it means that the whole motion path is going to be linear, which means that the movements from frame to frame are going to be constant from 0 to 2 seconds, which they are. You can see them spaced out here along the motion path. They're all spaced out in equal distance, which means as we move from frame to frame, it'll be a constant movement and the movement will be exactly the same. So from beginning to end, it will move in exactly the same, I'm going to be honest, fairly dull, linear manner. What we're going to do is we're actually going to change the end keyframe to a Bezier keyframe using the Easy Ease tools. Now what I'd like to do is, folks, have a look at these dotted lines just round about here and see what happens when we change this keyframe, and we're going to put it to an Easy Ease in. And it's very simple to do. You select the keyframe, and you can either go to Animation here, Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease in, but I prefer to do a right click on it, Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease in. Now, like I said, could you just keep an eye on the spacing of these dots here? At the moment, these dots are spaced apart equally, which means they're linear. If I click on Keyframe Assistant, whoops, and go to Easy Ease in, what happens to those dots? They get much more tightly packed. And the keyframe here now, if you look at it, is now a Bezier keyframe. It's a Bezier keyframe and it's an Easy Ease in keyframe. So if we look at this motion path here, they're equally spaced apart, but they start to get more tightly packed, which means that as this red solid approaches the endpoint, the more tightly packed they are together, the slower it's going to move. And that's going to be, I think, a little bit more realistic. If an object was moving towards, say, a brick wall, if you were running towards a wall, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you did, you'd probably slow down as you approach that wall. And it's the same here. As this object moves across the screen and approaches the endpoint, we want it to slow down. So these keyframes here, these frame points as we move along the motion path, are fairly evenly spread out. Here they're tightly packed, which means they're tightly packed, things should slow down. Now the interesting thing is, folks, the movement will still take 2 seconds, but it will ease up a bit as it gets here. Let's play it back and have a look. There we go. Slightly eases up as it gets into the end. I think what I might do is move that keyframe to 1 second, and I think the effect might be a little bit more dramatic. Let's play it back and have a look. It still works though, because as you can see, these are spread apart quite a bit here, which means it's going to go fairly quickly. If they're spread apart quite a bit, the movement will be faster. The closer they are together, the movement will slow down. So let's just play that back. That's a bit better. It eases up now towards the end. So again, keep an eye on these dots and how far they're spread apart. If they're tightly packed, like here, means things are going to slow down. if they're more evenly spread like here, if they're more evenly spread like here, things will be going that little bit more quickly. Now, if you want to undo the Bezier keyframe, you can do Command on your keyboard, click on it once, and then again to put it back to a diamond. And if it's a diamond, it's a linear keyframe. And as you can see, my motion path is now linear. All of the points along the path are now evenly spread, and we've gone back to the fairly dull, flat movement. I'm going to do a right click on the first keyframe. Go to Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease Out. This means now, if we look at the beginning, it's quite a nice effect. What will happen is it will actually start slowly and speed up towards the end. It's almost like you're trying to start a car and accelerate away slowly. So let's give that a go. So it starts slowly and then zooms off, and you'll start to find you can actually add a bit of character to your movements. In this case, it's fast to get off, then it slows down. If I put it back to a normal linear and put this one here back to easy ease in, we've reversed the process. It now gets off quickly and then slows down at the end. Now they're basic movements, but you really need to get the hang of these to get a sense of bringing a bit of life and actually controlling your movements a bit more. And keep an eye out for these motion paths. If things are spread apart like this, it's going to go quite quickly. The more tightly packed they are, like here, things will go more slowly. There's one last thing you can do, and I'm just going to put this back to linear again. If you want to, you can actually highlight both keyframes, do a right click, Keyframe Assistant, and just go for a general easy ease, which means both keyframes will ease out and ease in. And it actually just smooths over the whole animation. If you look at it now, you can see things are tightly packed here, but they're more loosely packed together in the middle. So it'll be fast in the middle, but slow at the beginning and at the end. Let's give it a go. Yeah, not bad. Anyway, I think you got the idea. If you want to put them back to linear, you can do Command and click and it puts them back to the diamond shape. If you want to make them easy ease, it's a simple right click, Keyframe Assistant, and your tools are here. Okay folks, hope you found that useful. See you in the next tutorial.